Hi, I'm Reva with Quality Sewing and Vacuum, and welcome to our how-to series. And today we're talking about quick gifts. Holidays are right here. Well, they're upon us. So you might have someone you want to give a nice little thoughtful gift to, or you're going to a party and you want to give a hostess gift. So I have a couple of ideas for you. Now, this all kind of started with a gift that a friend gave to me, and this is it's a mug rug, you know, because every mug needs a rug. So if you don't know what a mug rug is, you're not alone. I know when I first heard the term mug rug, I'm like, really, for what? But what you do, it's basically a coaster with room for a friend, like a pastry or a cookie or something like that. So it's a mug rug. So these are great little thoughtful gifts, and they're just so much fun to make. Now, I thought that I would share with you this, but with a little bit of a different idea that will make it look pretty on the back. And this is pretty on the back because it's got some fun fabric, but pretty on the back, and it's easy to turn right side out, and you don't have to sew anything shut. Okay, so we're going to talk about different things that you can do, like a pot holder. So this is a great little pot holder, and look at how cute the back is. So this is a little woven piece, and this is how we turn it right side out. So darling, and it's just so much fun to make. And we can also do coasters. I mean, seriously, how cute is that? Give someone a set of 4 coasters and you're golden. You'll be the most valued guest at the party. So what we're going to learn today is how to create the basic piece, and then you can size it to whatever size works for you. So if you want to do a hot pad, if you want to do a coaster, maybe you want to make a trivet, or you want to make a mug rug. We're going to go through all those different sizes, and then I also have some tips along the way for creating working with batting scraps and decorative stitches and applique, things like that. So if there's any questions, please put them in the comments, and remember to like, comment, and share. And all your friends can also view this video. Wouldn't it be funny if you made a hot pad for a friend of yours and they made one back? I think that would be awesome. So if that happens, make sure to let us know. Okay, so let's talk about what you need. We're going to start basically with the hot pad, then we're going to work into some different sizes. So what you're going to want to have is fabric, right? And your fabric you want to have pre-cut at the size you want plus seam allowance. So for example, this is an 8-inch pot holder. I think this is a great size. So you want to cut your fabric to 8.5-inch squares. You can cut them bigger, and that's perfectly fine. In fact, that's a really good thing to do. Go ahead and cut them bigger. You can cut them at 9 inches. Just gives you a little bit more wiggle room. So if you cut them all at 9 inches, you're going to need 5 pieces of fabric. You're going to need 1 for each of your panels on the back and 1 for the front. Then you're going to also need batting, and if you're going to use this for an actual hot pad or a trivet, you want to use something called hot cold barrier fleece. This is from R&K, and we carry it in our stores. One side is very, very metallic and one is soft and fluffy. So how this works, well, let's be frank, I really don't know how it works. It just does. It keeps the heat away from your hand when you're using the pot holder with a pan or with the oven, a pan out of the oven. So this is the thermal part. It also keeps things cold. Sorry, I need to take a drink of water. Apologize. And I should open up the top. That's another tip. If you have a water cup, make sure it's open. Okay, so in here I have my hot cold barrier fleece. These are great for lunch sacks and other things too, so you can keep your casseroles warm if you want to wrap them in that, or if you want to have your lunch stay cold. You can make bags out of it. Really fun. Anyway, so I have a layer of that, but I like my pot holders to have a little bit more substance to them because that's a really thin piece. So I also have some Warm and Natural in here. Now, you've probably all are acquainted with Warm and Natural. It's a cotton batting, and so this is nice. It just gives a little bit more of a substance. So let me show you how I layered that together. So on my fabric here, and I'm showing you, I have a piece of fabric just as a background. So on this particular one, it's 6 pieces of fabric because this is kind of like a lining. And I figured if anyone were to peek through the little, the woven spot here, right? If I don't want them, I want them to see something kind of pretty if they were to look in there. But you know what? If they're looking inside that, shame on them. But anyway, so I did put that on this example. And you're going to want to lay down your hot cold barrier fleece, and I put that to the back because I usually use my pot holder with the pretty side toward my hand, and I grab the pan that way. So I put the hot cold barrier fleece to the back side, and then I layered on a piece of warm and natural. Okay, so I got those layers there. Then this piece here that you see, my polka dot piece, he is bigger than 8 inches. So I want to make sure my pot holder is the right side. So I did mark it just so I could sew the right side. And we're going to come over to this machine for a little bit now. And I'm going to bring up a straight stitch on this machine. Okay. And then I'm going to just sew from the line side. I should do. Here's where I've already started to stitch. So I'm going to just continue that stitching around. So let me just do that. And I'm going to stop for a second and put my needle function down because I'm going to want to stop in the corner. Okay, and then I'm going to pivot, and notice how the machine lifts that foot for me when I pivot. That's kind of a cool thing. So we'll just stitch around. And if you're using the foot control, you might feel more comfortable adjusting the speed because then you can sew really fast. I'm not comfortable doing that with the push button. Okay, but this is where whoops, I'm also not stitching straight. Stitch straight, would you? Okay, and then I'm going to back it up and cut my thread, and we're ready to go. So now let's talk about trimming. We want to trim off this extra because this is where our seam line is going to be, and we don't want all this going into our seam allowance, okay? Because it just makes it too bulky to trim. So let's talk about trimming. Now this is a tip that you can use on just about any applique type of a project or anything where you need to trim the extra bulk away. First of all, let's put it on a flat surface. Even if you're working in the hoop, you want to make sure you're on a flat surface so you don't disrupt what you're trimming. And then we're going to go ahead and lift up both pieces of the batting, and I'm going to stand it straight up, and I'm going to put a little bit of a resistance on this fabric. I'm not pulling it up so hard that I can't cut, but I am giving it a little bit of a tug because then that is going to enable me to cut really kind of close to the stitching line. And I am using the Quilter Select Applique Wave Scissors. I love them because it has this bill on there that protects the bottom fabric, but I also can get into a nice sharp point. So you're just going to continue this all the way around, and then what you're going to end up with is a square with your batting stuck to it. So it's going to be trimmed out like that all the way around, okay? I hope that makes sense, because then what you're going to want to do, let's pretend that I already trimmed those sides. Then you're going to take your pretty fabric, whether it be maybe it's a print like this, or maybe it's an orphan block. And an orphan block would be one that you've pieced and put together, but you don't have a quilt to put it in. Maybe it's left over from a quilt, or it's something you just changed your mind on. Perfect time to use those. So we're going to put it here, and then let's do some decorative stitching to hold the layers together. So you can do a stipple in here, you can do just straight lines, you could do a cross hatch, and that's what I did here on this one, is I made a cross hatch. And I did use my friction pen. You can see the green right there, and this will come off with the heat of an iron. Or heaven's sakes, if I touch a pan to it, it's coming right off anyway. So I did make that, and so my top is ready to go. So now all we need to do is make our back, and then also put it in our hanger. So for the hanger, this is really pretty easy to do. You're going to take ribbon. If I can find where I put my ribbon, right here. Just take some ribbon and fold a size loop that you like. There's no rule to any of this. And give that a cut. And then what I like to do is take my Quilter Select glue stick, and I love this glue stick. Put some on the end there, and then I'm going to fold it and just pinch it for a minute, so that way it will stay closed, and then my loop's already formed. And I'm going to set it aside for just a second. Okay, now let's build this part right here, our flaps. So what you're going to do with that is, remember how I said you needed the 5 pieces of pretty fabric for your project, whether it be a hot pad, a trivet, a mug rug, anything. It takes 5. You have the pretty one, then you have the 4 for the backing, and they're all cut to the same size. So if you take a look, they're all the 8.5 inches, and let's build this together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay one piece out, and I have 2 lights and 2 reds in this case, so I'm just going to make them kind of opposite. They're all folded in half, and I'm putting the folds facing each other, so they just kind of, they kiss right there, they meet up. Then I'm going to take a red one, and I'm going to lay it over top, and then I'm going to lift up one of my light pieces and place that over. So now it looks like I've done patchwork there. I've covered up half of my deer fabric, so now I need to cover up half of my gray fabric. So I'm just going to lay that right there in place, lift that up, and put that down. Okay, and then this intersection, hopefully you can see, I don't know, Carrie, can you see that pretty good? I want to wiggle that. So it was out like that, and I just give it a little bit of a wiggle because I want that intersection to be nice and tight. Then what I'm going to do is take my Kimberbell paper tape, and I'm going to put a piece right there to hold that intersection together. Now, you might have seen these. These are so cute. This is the paper tape dispenser, and it's great for regular tape too, but it has such a nice weight to it. You can easily tear off your pieces of tape and have them at the ready. Now, what makes the paper tape, the reason why I use that is if I happen to stitch through it, which I really pretty much won't because of where this is located, but if you stitch through paper tape, it perforates with the needle, and then you're able to just tear it right off. So it makes it so easy to control. Okay, so I have that. Now this is pretty much one piece because I have it taped together like that. I wouldn't go, being all crazy with it like I just did, but you have it ready to go. And then what we're going to do is he's going to hold tight for a second. And then I'm going to take this and we're going to trim it up. And actually, let me just move him out of the way. So what I want to do is I'm going to trim him so he is the 8.5 inches, and in this case I actually I wasn't thinking, and I made him 8 inches, which is perfectly fine. It makes a fine size hot pad, but I personally like an 8-inch finish, not a 7.5-inch finish. So the other ones I did larger. So I'm just going to cut this using the ruler, and I lined up the corner and these 2 edges with the edge of the printed fabric, the size that I need it to be, and then I'm just going to cut that off. Let me cut all of it off. And then what I'm going to do is simply rotate my ruler so I can put this in the corner, and then I have my 8 inches. So let me scoot him down onto the mat a little bit more, make sure he's square, and then we're just going to trim that up. And I'll just rotate the mat one more time. Okay, so now, well, I missed the thread, didn't I? Okay, so now he's all trimmed, ready to go. And I love this fabric. It's such a cute little panel and this is in several of our stores. So if you fall in love with it, it's really great. It has like 8 different buildings that are a lovely little scene. Okay, so now let's put this on. So I'm going to find the center of my block, which is right here at 4 inches. I've lined it up on my mat. and I'm just going to put it there, but to have it stay in one place, I am going to just take my Quilter Select glue stick, put a bunch right in the seam allowance, and stick that down. And then if you want extra security that this won't flip up on you, just put some paper tape right there to hold it in place. Okay? All right, now we're ready to take the piece that we all did together here. And since I'm on camera and it's being all wiggly, I think I'm going to add a little bit more tape so it stays together when we flip him over. Because this is going to be the right side of my back. So I just want to make sure he is secure and not slipping about. Okay. And these go together so fast. So what I did is I took my fabric and I cut the 8.5-inch strips, and then I went back and he's crooked. Then I went back and just had him cut. I had 5 different fabrics. I cut an 8-inch square from each of them. So I did the 8.5-inch strips, and then I cut those into 8.5-inch squares, and then I folded 4 of them in half, and 1 of them was left alone. Okay, so now he is right there ready to go. And all we're going to do is sew around the entire perimeter of our piece. And you just need to do a 1/4 inch, so you don't have to do any more than that. You can if you're more comfortable. And I'm going to follow the edge of the fabric on the right side. So I'm looking at this edge here, not necessarily my flipped fabrics. Those you can trim. Once you get them taped down, you can trim them so they're all just exactly the same, and that works as well. But I'm trying to just get done so I can show you. So this you're going to go all the way around with. You don't have to leave any holes open or anything like that. And so this video will be available for replay, so you can watch it and get yourself all organized, and you can sew along with me if you like. And I think after you make one, they're going to be so simple, you're going to be so excited. And I don't remember where I learned this closure, but it's sure fun. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now we're pretty much done with our pot holder. But we are going to need to turn it right side out, and we want to reduce some of this bulk. And that's where pinking shears really come in handy. And these are Kai pinking shears. And Kai scissors are absolutely wonderful, and their pinking shears are no exception. So I'm just going to come in here and have my teeth be kind of near the stitching line, but not crossing into it. And what this is going to do is it's going to reduce the bulk, and it changes a straight edge here to the zigzag edge. And what that does is it won't have one solid lump that is a line that you can see from the right side. And of course we have the 2 layers of batting, so the chances that you were to see the lump is, in this case, is not very likely, but depending on what you're working on, it may be. And you notice that I'm trimming off the corners as we go, because we want to get the bulk out of those corners, so that way when we turn it right side out, you don't have all that extra fabric into the corners. Okay, all right, so this is my last little stretch here. Just trim that off, and we'll cut the corner. And I'm just watching the corner stitching, and I'm positioning one of the little zigzags right going around that. Okay, so now it's done. That was fast, that was easy, and all we need to do is put our fingers in here and push the corner in and push the other corner in. It works out so well when you're turning things right side out to push corners toward you as opposed to trying to bend everything around. And when you're doing this, you're going to notice that you have your paper tape in there, but it is such a nice light tack. It holds your fabric well, but it's safe for your fabric, but it doesn't hold so much that you can't get it off. So we'll just turn it right side out. We're going to peel off our tape that we have on all of our different little spots, and then we're going to get them all fixed up. Here's one more piece of tape. Okay, So there we go. Stick out our corners. Must have forgotten one because he's tucked in there. Okay, so now I've got my corners, and I'm going to take my point turner. This is really cool. It has a nice long handle on it, but notice how it has a little ball at the end of it. That enables you to push out the corners and not push through the stitching line. That's kind of an important thing because it's always a bummer if you push right through and you get rid of your stitching. Then you have to turn it wrong side back out, and you got to fix your hole. So there, that is now done. It just needs a final press to get that all laying how you want it to be and get your fabric. And kind of it just cleans up the edge. And what I like to do is if I were pressing it and the back was coming to the front, I'm going to roll it to the back and then press it. And then we have a cute little hot pad. Okay. Now, if you make it without the loop, and you can always adjust the size a little bit, then you have a trivet. So that's pretty awesome too. Okay. And this is a mess. You have a trash can is what you should do. I'll be wearing this all day long. Now, we're going to talk about some other things that you can do with your machine to make a cute little trivet or a mug rug. And you can do this on hot pads and everything too. But that is to take decorative stitches and create decorative fabric. Okay, so this is really fun to do. I don't know how many of you have ever thought, boy, I've got all these decorative stitches on my machine. What on earth do I do with them? Well, put them into something like this. You get to have fun with it. So all I did was piece 2 pieces of fabric together, and then I used a great product, and this product is called Quilter Select Tearaway. Now, what this is, I love this stuff. This is a very lightweight paper tearaway stabilizer that has kind of a waxy coating on the back. And when you fuse it to the back side of your fabric, it gives stiffness, and then you're able to do your decorative stitches without it bunching up and tunneling in. But then it's easy to remove the product once you're done. So let me find my little piece of fabric. Is that him right here? Here he is. So here's a piece of fabric that I just had fused some of that on, and it is only temporary. It's not going to stay there forever. So now you can come in and you can choose your different stitches. So I'm going to come in here and go to Needle Art. There's some stitches that I absolutely love here, and I switched the thing. Hand Look Embroidery Stitches. These are what I used on mine, and this is the FOF Performance icon. It's also on the icon as well. But we'll just take one of these stitches. This is an awesome stitch right here, and I'm going to bring that up. And now the machine does tell me which foot to use, and it says to use the 2A foot. So let me just switch that really quick. And just so you know, the feet may look very similar from the top, but it's the back that makes a difference, and that's why you want to make sure that you're using the foot that the machine suggests. And it even shows me on this little indicator right here that I should be using stabilizer, which we are. Now, you could use regular tearaway stabilizer, but the challenge of doing that is that it's so thick that it very well might be hard to remove from your stitches, and we want to make sure that we can tear them away easily without breaking the bobbin stitches, so that way your thread doesn't just all fall apart and then you're left not having anything to do. Okay, and then the other thing that we can do is we can do applique, kind of like what was done on here. So you can do, this is machine embroidered applique, but you can also do applique just with cutting out your shape of your fabric and applying that and stitching around with a decorative stitch or a blanket stitch. And to do that, I did use a product on the back of this, and it's called Apla Stick. And so this is really cool because you take your fabric and you fuse this to the back of the fabric, and then you can pre-trim it out. And then when you remove the paper, because it's a paper on the back, it's like a fabric sticker. So you're going to be able to have it stay right where you want it to stay on your fabric while you're sewing it. And then once you're done, you can fuse it in place and it also becomes permanent. So that's pretty cool. Is there a question, Carrie?
Yeah, Reva, can you repeat the name of the stabilizer that you used on the back of that?
Yes, ma'am. This is the Quilter Select Tearaway. Okay, so this is different than a standard tearaway. It's lighter weight, as you can, I mean, it's really nice and light, and it fuses on, and it's a temporary fuse. Okay, now the applique stick that I put on here is fused to this fabric, and then I peeled off the paper, and we can just have that go right on to here, and then it will hold it in place while you stitch around the outer edge to, to secure it. Then after that's all done and you fuse this again, it will be permanent. Okay, so that's a really fun thing. Now, if you have a piece that you're going to do for machine embroidery and you don't have the piece pre-cut, just take a square of it and put the applique stick on the back of that. Then the machine will stitch its area. Then you can trim like we did the batting right at first. Just lift that up and trim the extra away, and that works really well too. But take a look at this, the tearaway. Look, I just peel that up and just get it kind of started, and then let's come in here. And if you peel toward your stitches, look at that. Look at how easy that is pulling away. Because if you've ever done stabilizer on the back of your decorative stitches, which that's what we do, is we use the stabilizer on the back, you know how nearly impossible it is to get it out from all of those little stitches. But since this is lightweight, if you don't get it all, it's not that big of a deal, but it also tears away so easily, and it doesn't harm the thread that you have in your stitches. So that's the back and that's the front. So it works out really, really well. So I was really excited when this came to be. It's a beautiful, beautiful product. Now let's take a quick look, and look, I'm going to clean the sewing room. You ready? Look, I cleaned my sewing room. Okay, so now I have a clean spot. So let's talk about making a mug rug, because it's a different size, it's a different shape, it's rectangular. So for that, what we're going to want to do is have our rectangular piece here. Here's our piece that we want to do. Now we want to add our batting to this. And also remember, you need 5 pieces. You need a top and you need your 4 for the back. And this is 5 by 7, and these are all cut at 5 by 7. Well, actually they're 5.5 by 7.5, and they're folded in half. 2 of them are folded long ways and 2 of them are folded width ways. Okay, can you see that? Because we're doing a rectangle. Okay, but we need to do our batting first. So, do you have any of these at home? Batting that just isn't big enough for anything? Well, here's a fun way to get batting the right size. Take 2 pieces of scrap batting, and these both happen to have straight edges on them. So I'm going to butt up the straight edges, and I'm going to take my paper tape and I'm going to stick them together. Okay, I just want to hold them together, not permanently, because we're going to stitch this. Okay, now the reason I put them with the edges butted together is because we're going to sew them together. We're not sewing them together like a seam, because if we sewed them like a seam, then we'd have a lump in there, and you want your batting to be flat. So you can take a zigzag of some sort, or a stitch that goes left to right, and it makes multiple stitches. So you could use a triple zigzag, a zigzag that goes stitch, 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 stitch. That would work. And also you can use a serpentine stitch. You can use lots of different stitches for this. Not a real decorative one, but just one that goes left to right and has a decent length of a stitch. So I also don't want to put one over the top of each other, because that would make a lump as well. So let's go into our stitches here, and I'm going to, actually I'm just going to go grab it from right here. Here's my stitches. So I'm going to come in here and let's go back to our, let's see if it's under quilts. Can't remember if they're under which category it's under. Here's the one I like to use right here. Number 1. And that is a serpentine stitch. So it's going to go across from left to right, and the center of this stitch right here is where I'm going to have the center of my batting, the where it's being stitched together. So let me put my 1A foot back on like it asks me to, and then I'm going to put the dual feed, engaged dual feed like it suggests, and that is actually a walking foot for the top layers of fabric. So now I'm going to put my foot down, and I've lined up the split here right under the center of my foot, and we're going to stitch and let it go back and forth, and I'm going to speed that up a little bit so we can go a little faster. And so this is going to let you take scraps of batting, put them back together so they become one piece of batting. So this is going to save you lots of time, and especially if you don't have batting at home in a big enough piece, you can utilize those scraps. So it'll save you time from having to run out and get more, but also you're using up your pieces in a very nice way. So see how that's joined together now, but it's not lumpy. And we can pull off the tape the same way we did before, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to bother. So I'm just going to lay this right on top because I want my, I need the batting underneath here. Then we're going to take our pieces. So let me take my long red piece and my other long red piece, and the fold is together. And then I'm going to take a short piece, fold to the center, and I'll lift up one and put it down, and then I'll take my other light piece, fold to the middle, and I'm going to take and lift that up, and then we'll tape that all into place. And I've got a nice intersection on this one right away, so that's kind of makes you feel good when that happens. All right, and one more piece. And then we'll just stitch around the perimeter of the whole thing, and then we'll just trim it like we did the hot pad. But I'm not going to put a hanger in this one because it's a mug rug, but I'm going to trim around with my pinking shears, turn it right side out just like we did the hot pad, and then we have a mug rug. So it's a wonderful gift. You can even put this in an envelope with a Christmas card and mail it off. Also makes great birthday gifts and things like that. So this is lots of fun. Okay. All right. Are you ready for the next step? So here is our little coasters. Another thing I wanted to point out about having the 4 pieces of fabric back here is that since they overlap each other evenly, it is a smooth, solid surface. So if you were to put a glass down on this, it's not going to be tippy because it's all the same thickness. Okay, so that's really nice when you're working with trivets for the table, or when you're working with coasters. Now the coasters, I only have 1 layer of batting in those because it's fine. If this is going to go on my tabletop, it's going to insulate plenty enough with just a layer of cotton batting in there. And also it has there's 2, 4, 5 layers of fabric there too, because these are folded in half. So that's plenty of insulation. When you're making your hot pads, if you want to, you can put a thin layer of vinyl in here, and I'll show you where, but that will help it be water resistant, so the condensation won't go through your little coaster. So what I want to show you is I want to show you how to create this as an embroidery file on your Brother or your Baby Lock machine. You can also do this in software the same way. So we're going to make a trivet. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go into my design center. And what we're going to want to bring up is a shape. So you can make a round one, you can make a square, any shape you want to. Just bear in mind, if we were to use a circle, you're going to lose a lot more. You'd have triangles, which might be really, really cute. Okay, so make it the size you want. I'm going to just choose this rounded square. That's what I did for this one. And I'm going to say okay. And now I have that shape, but we need to make sure it's the size that we want it to be. So I'm going to come in here to my size option, and I'm going to decrease the size. I chose to make mine 3.5 inches. Coasters can be anywhere from 3 to 5 inches, so make it whatever size you want. Excuse me. Now, and I'm going to make it right at 5. Right at 3.5. Well, I guess I make it 3.51. That's fine with me. Then I'm going to say okay. And now we want to choose the type of line that we have around the outside edge. This is going to be the first thing that stitches, so it's a placement line. So I'm going to choose it just to be a running stitch. And I'm going to change the color just so I know it happens. So I've chosen a running stitch. Now I need to apply this information to the line. So I'm going to use the bucket and just touch the bucket. Now it's blue, so I know it's the way I want it to be. And then I'm going to go ahead at this point, I'm going to touch memory, and I'm going to put it into the machine's memory so we can work with the same file again. Then I'm going to touch next, and you're going to see a preview of it, and you can see it's a straight line. It's not a satin stitch, so that's great. Then we're going to say set, and this turns it into an embroidery design. So I'm going to put it into memory again because I need that stitch. Now I'm going to go back to my design center, and I'm going to go into my memory, and I'm going to pull out the stitch that we just made. And now I'm going to go ahead and I want to change this line to be a triple stitch because it's going to be tacking down the entire piece. It's holding all the layers together. That's my sewing stitch, so I want it to be really well stitched together. So I'm going to choose that. Now let's choose a pattern for our fill. So you can choose a simple stipple fill if you want to, and that's what's on this one. I don't know if you can see that on this one. I use the stipple. I should probably have the little deer right side up. And this one, I chose to use one of the decorative fills. And look at all the fun fills you have. But I did use the circles, and I also will change the size of that. So I want to put those circles inside my coaster. So I just touch the paint bucket and pour it into that area. Then when we go to next, then I can change the size. So I actually took this down on this piece. I took it to 50%, and then we'll say okay. Now it's ready to go, and I'm going to say set and okay. Now it's an embroidery design, and I'm putting it into memory. Okay, so are you ready to stitch it out? We're not going to stitch the whole thing out, but I want you to see how this is done. So I'm actually going to bring in the design. I'm going to clear everything out. I'm going to go to embroidery, and in my pocket, I'm going to find in the machine's pocket, where's my, oh, there's my coaster. Here's my straight line. I want that to stitch out first, so I'm going to set it. Then I want to add another one. Now, you can add and go right to this piece, but I'm actually going to add a second one of these because I want it to first show me where it's going to stitch. Then I want it to hold the fabric down for me. And that's what this one's going to do. This one will show me. This one's going to tack down the top fabric. Then I'm going to add another one, and that is my pretty one. Okay. So now how this goes is we're going to go to embroidery, and then I'm going to slip my little 4x4 hoop on. If you have a bigger hoop, you can do more all at one time. And load bunches of them in your hoop if you want to. But I'm just going to load in that one, and then we're going to stitch around it. And he's 3.5 inches. So then when that's done, and you notice I have a piece of fabric here. I didn't want to put in crunchy stabilizer, so I just put in a piece of fabric because this isn't dense, so it's going to be fine. And then so that fabric is acting as my stabilizer. Oh, I touched the screen and I stopped it. So we'll have to finish up there. So when that's done, I'm going to cover it with my batting. and then it's going to stitch down the batting. Then we're going to trim it, okay? And that's something good to do before you start sewing the next area, because you want to trim that. It's easier to trim that right at first than it is to trim with the fabric over top. So I'm just going to trim, just stitch that down really quick.
So Reva Roxanne was asking, she accidentally joined us late, wants to know if this will be repeated later.
Oh, well, repeated no, recorded yes. How about that? So yes, you're going to be able to watch this, and you can watch it on our Facebook page, on our YouTube page, or you can watch it on via our website. And you just go to on the website, you go to inspiration, and then there's a listing in the menu that says how do I. You click there and it will live there. Okay, so thanks Roxanne for joining us. Okay, so you can see how we've got this stitch. So now what we're going to want to do is, remember, get that on a flat surface and then go ahead and trim away that extra fabric. So, or batting in this case. And if I was doing this as a hot pad, I would do the same steps that we just did, but I would choose to do 8 inches or whatever size you want it to be. If you're doing a mug rug, the one I made finishes out at 5 by 7, so you could do that. If you want a trivet that you want it to be 10 by 10, or whatever you want to do, go for it. You know, just make it the way you want it to be. And I'm not doing a great job of trimming this, but you know, you get the idea, right?
So Reva, Carol wants to know, did you use a stabilizer in this?
That's a great question, Carol. What I used is I used a piece of fabric as my stabilizer for this case because it's not really embroidery. Does that make sense? I'm not putting a fish on this. If I was putting a dense embroidery, I would, but I am just using the fabric for a stabilizer in this case. Okay, so now...
One more question,
yes.
Sorry. When using the fabric as a stabilizer for this project, is the fabric face up or face down?
Your choice. Your choice. I put it face down. I don't know if you noticed that, but I put it face down because that way, if this ever were to peek and you were to see the fabric through it, then it would be right side up, right? But so you could actually put a piece of fabric down there that matches. So you could put, like I have 2 pieces, I could have put like hooped my red fabric and put that right side down, and then it would have been, if there was any peekaboo, it would have been the fabric. Okay? So I think I'm going to just put I think I'm going to do I'll just do this one. Yeah, I want to do the gray one. It's decisions. Which one do I want to do? So I'm just going to slip that on there. Now, you can use your paper tape or you can use your glue stick. And if you do that, just put some right in the corners of that, and you got to roll it out so you have some. And then the points of your corners will glue right on, and then you're able to stick it right down and it will be held into place for us. Okay, so then we'll put it down and we'll go. And I guess we may as well, oops, I'm not threaded. Let's get him threaded. Okay, and then while it's stitching it, I said we weren't going to do it all the way, but maybe we'll have time to do it all the way. We'll see. But while it's doing that, I'll get my little pieces, and I'll make my little piece together. So I've got my pieces here, and I have 2 of them that are red, so I like to have it kind of symmetrical or even. So I put those away from each other, and then I'm going to take one and slip underneath the one side. So it's kind of like when we were kids in kindergarten, we did the weaving with construction paper. It's the same type of idea. Make sure that your folds are facing into the fabric, into the middle of your fabric. And then I'm just going to take a little piece of tape and pop right there. And then when it's done, we'll just put that down. It's going to stitch around, and then we're going to be able to turn it right side out, and it's all done. So while we're doing that, let me show you a couple of other things that you might think about for gifts. So I grabbed a whole bunch of products that I thought would be fun for gifts. This one is so cute. This is the Kimberbell Pet Kerchief, and it's really fun. Look at those. So cute. And these are multiple sizes all in one because you snap it around the your collar, and you can trim it up and make it whatever size. So if it's a little pooch or a big pooch, you have them all ready for you right here. There's 2 different ones in one package. So that's kind of fun. So you can add applique or embroidery or whatever you want to do there. Then we also have things like pillow blanks. And these are really cool. Let me get it, see if you can see that. Can you see that right there? The pillow blank comes completely flat. The zipper is stitched in, but the pillow itself is flat. So you can decorate it, you can put embroidery on it or applique, and then when you're done, you simply stitch up the edges, the 3 edges, because the top is already a zipper. So that's really fast and easy. Then we also have just a myriad of, there's lots of different embroidery collections that you might be interested in, like making jewelry with a lace one. Then there's boxes. These are so cute. They're called origami boxes. So you can put your gift in a box. Then there is things like making a pin cushion. How fun is that? What a nice little gift to make for your sewing friends. Now this is fun. This is happy hour. So these are beverage drink recipes that you can stitch out, as they show it as a picture here, but they're really fun to put on hand towels, like tea towels, to give as gifts. And maybe you want to make a stocking. There's the Kimberbell stockings. I love this one. The little ornaments. Aren't those cute? I try to make an ornament for my family every year and for the people that I love. So that's kind of a fun one. And then this is a good one for making a pillow, and it's all chenille and it's done in the hoop. So these are just some fun things you can do. Another thing that I had fun doing is, well, let me show you this. Is that not a hoot? Okay, Santa Claus. Get it, Santa Claus. I found this at one of the home decor discount stores, and so I made this for some friends of ours that like to go fishing. And so then I took one of the designs off of the Baby Lock 10 needle, and I made a matching tea towel to go with it. How cute is that? And the toweling we have at several of our stores. So we have different types of toweling. Let me set Santa Claus on the floor. And so there's a bunch of different ones that you can choose from, and you can make your own tea towels, and they're just so much fun. So several of our stores have the toweling in stock, so you're going to be able to make what you want. You can even make table runners and all sorts of stuff with that. Okay, so we have our little guy. He's all done. I've got my stitching right there. So now I just need to take this and place right over top and center it, and then let's push the button, and we're going to stitch that last little, wait, before I go any further, this guy's too low. I can feel it. I placed him too low. So let me switch him up a little bit so he'll cover. Okay. All right. So now we'll just stitch around the edge. Oops, stop. Do you see what happened? That was silliness. I got the thread caught underneath my foot, or I got the fabric over my foot. So I'm going to take that down, and I'm going to take a piece of tape, and I should have done this right from the beginning. So I'm going to take a piece of tape and put over the top there. And remember, this perforates and it comes off really very easily. So I'm going to just put it on all 4 of my edges, so that way he will not get caught. And then I'm going to show you couple of things too that is kind of cool. So I need to back up. So on the machine you have a needle with a minus and a plus. I'm going to go minus, and I'm going to go back. Let's go back 10 stitches and okay. Now if you're ever stitching and you're coming up on something that you want to be very careful of, if you, and this is on Brother and Baby Lock machines, if you push in, oops, I came unthreaded too. Let me re-thread. Okay, so if you ever come up on an edge like that where you're going to go over a fold, or you're starting and it needs to be careful, let me show you a fun and easy way to make sure that caution is at the most, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push the go button, but I'm gonna push and hold it, and it's gonna go slow, slow, slow. See how it's not going very fast? And then I can get over the lump, and then I can let go, and then it goes up to full speed. So that only works from a stopped position. If I start it now, it just stops. So you can restart and hold that down. It's going to go slow, and once you let go, it's going to go up to speed. Okay. And that is on Brother and Baby Lock, top end embroidery machines. I'm not sure where in the line that starts. Okay, so when this is done, I would trim with the pinking shears just like I did all the rest of them, and then turn them right side out. So in just a matter of a couple of minutes, you can have a whole set of coasters made, and you're ready to go to that party and give a gift to the hostess. So please feel free to re-watch this, and go into the stores. We're going to have the designs for the coaster and the one for the hot pad, these two, we're going to have those available. So take a USB stick into one of our stores, and then they will be able to put it on a stick for you. The hot pad is 8 inches, so if your machine can sew 8 inches or larger in a hoop, then this will work for you. Otherwise, the trivet will work in a 4x4 and larger hoop. Or not trivet, the coaster. So we'll make that available to the stores for you to bring your own USB stick though, and then we will be able to put it on your stick for you. So happy holidays. I hope you have fun making some great gifts, and they are really fast and easy, and they're fun to do.